Accessing peace. Existing without violence, with the ability to calmly resolve conflict. Downloading love. An overwhelming, deep, positive affection towards others. Activating liberty. Living your life as you see fit without infringing on the lives of others.
Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Harry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism. And something interesting happened over the weekend, and, you know, I'm probably one of the few people that is absolutely intrigued by this particular thing. And when I say few people, I mean statistically few. I know that there are a bunch of people within the running community that are intrigued by this particular event that happened over the weekend. But again, you know, like that's a small number out of a small number. I'm talking about this crazy thing that happens in Tennessee called the Barkley Marathon. And yeah, it's one of those things that I first heard about last fall, listening to, of all things, you guessed it, a running podcast. And yeah, so this race, if you want to call it that, it's run by a crazy man. And I mean no disrespect to the guy that organizes this thing, but by all accounts, he's a crazy man. There is no online registration for this race. In order to register, you have to find somebody that has participated previously, and then they can assist you in filling out an application that gets mailed to this crazy person. And then he decides whether or not he lets you in the race, and then he will tell you what the entry fee is. It could be a beef jerky, it could be a pack of cigarettes, it could be, you know, a bottle of whiskey, and then he gives you the rough estimate of when the race is going to happen. Yeah, you heard that right. He tells you a rough estimate. You've got a 12-hour window of when the race will begin, and you have a rough idea of where the race begins. And he will signal 1 hour before the race by blowing a conch horn. And then, although in the video that is pulled up on this particular article, it appears that someone is blowing a bugle, although that appears to be to signify the end of the event. Yes, the end of the event. And I'm laughing because they mentioned the fun run, which is like a 60-mile trek through the wilderness of Tennessee. So the Barkley, again, it's an ultramarathon. You get notified that the race is starting within 1 hour when a blow of a conch horn, and then you go to the starting line, and then the race officially begins when the crazy man lights a cigarette. You then wander through the hills of Tennessee, searching for a book. And then you pull a page out of the book, and then it tells you where the next place to go, and then you do that on a bunch of loops. You have 12 hours to complete each loop. Each loop is officially 20 miles, although by all accounts, everybody that has run the race says it's closer to 25 or 30. But nobody really knows because you're not allowed to have cell phones or GPS trackers. You're allowed to have a compass. Yeah. It's people roaming through the woods in Tennessee going on this crazy man's adventure. I don't actually want to wind up running this thing, but I do at some point want to go witness this firsthand. And again, this thing happened over the weekend. I was informed via Twitter, of all places, and, well, nobody officially finished this race. Now, why am I talking about a crazy man's race that nobody finished? Well, again, I was very intrigued by it, and I wanted to share the story. Also, I've been sort of on a kick of watching documentaries about really crazy ultramarathons. And, well, the last documentary that I watched was not about an ultramarathon per se. It was about a guy that ran the Appalachian Trail. Started in Mount Katahdin in northern Maine, and then he ran to Georgia. Just under 46 days. Yeah, they're crazy people, but I'm inspired by these crazy people. And that's what I want to talk about, is, sort of inspiration and getting back in shape and, all of the things that I've been doing over the last several years. I've got several articles here in front of me from MyFitnessPal, which is actually an app that I use. Actually, I use a sister app called Map My Run that is connected to the GPS watch that I have, that also connects to Strava and a couple other things to help me keep track of what my fitness is, how long I work out, what my heart rate is when I'm working out, how far I'm running, what my pace is, what my heart rate is when I'm running, things of that sort. So there's actually 2 different articles here about dieting that I don't think I'm actually going to get into, but I do want to put in the show notes. Specifically because I know that a lot of libertarians are on this keto diet kick, to where the term ketotarian has become a thing. Yeah, the word ketotarian is a thing, meaning a libertarian that's on the ketogenic diet. Article from MyFitnessPal. They've actually talked to some dietitians about this thing, and they get into it. And yeah, I know there's going to be the people, well, see, the dietitians, they're approved by the state, and the state wants you to think that the food pyramid, something, upside down, this other thing, blah, 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 Illuminati, because why else would it be a food pyramid? Link will be in the show notes for Ask the Dietitian about the ketogenic diet. But I want to jump into, and will, in just a moment, jump into the article about tips for mastering the mental side of getting fit.
This is Darryl W. Perry, host of Free Talk Live. This November, I'll be running in the world's biggest and most popular marathon, the New York City Marathon, and I've accepted a spot on Team Innocence Project because I'm a passionate supporter of their work. Since 1989, 353 people in the United States have been exonerated by DNA testing, including 38 who pled guilty to crimes they did not commit, and 20 of whom served time on death row. The Innocence Project provided direct representation or critical assistance in 180 of these cases. With your help, the Innocence Project can help even more people who have been wrongly convicted. As part of Team Innocence Project, I am raising awareness about wrongful convictions and raising funds to help free the innocent. I've already paid the race registration fees. However, to secure my spot on Team Innocence Project in the New York City Marathon, I need to raise $3,500 by November 1st. You can support the Innocence Project and help me secure my race entry by going to run.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. We'll actually jump into the topic here in just a second, but first I've got a question for you. Are you an advocate for free market money? Do you use and promote Bitcoin as an alternative in a fiat-centric world? If so, then you need Spend-A-Bit in your arsenal. What is Spend-A-Bit? I'm glad you asked, because I will tell you, Spend-A-Bit is the search engine for things you can buy with Bitcoin. They've aggregated millions of products from thousands of Bitcoin-enabled merchants. Keep your money in the free economy. Spend a bit. Use my affiliate link, spendabit.fppradio.com. And if you're a Bitcoin-accepting merchant, like I am, ask about their merchant suite to reach even more customers. Spendabit.fppradio.com. Now, let's actually jump into what I wanted to get into. 7 tips for mastering the mental side of getting fit. Again, it comes from myfitnesspal.com. Link will be in the show notes. You can read it at your leisure. The article begins, even world-class athletes sometimes need to remind themselves whatever big game or event they're training for isn't some remote one-off in the distant future. It's a thing they need to train for every single day. Point being, competing at the highest level on Earth isn't a project with a neatly defined end date and a goal. Instead, it's an ongoing process, part of a long-term lifestyle. It's a useful piece of wisdom, even if, maybe, especially if, you're not an elite athlete. And I am not an elite athlete by any stretch of the imagination. But one thing that I have done, and this is me cutting in, not reading from the article right now, one thing that I have done is I totally changed what I was doing. I used to be a big fat blob, and now I'm not a big fat blob anymore. Now, does that mean that I've got the perfect body that I want? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. I still can't see my abs, and that upsets the hell out of me. But herein lies the mental struggle, right? Because I've accomplished something that is just, absolutely crazy, dropping 145 pounds. Now, I've not necessarily kept all of that off. I've kept the vast majority of it off. I'm about 15 pounds heavier right now than I want to be. But still, keeping off 130 pounds is no small feat. Not by any stretch of the imagination, but still, it's one of those things that I struggle with, to where I know that I've accomplished this thing that a lot of people are just absolutely, just amazed by, but I'm still not happy. I'm happier than I was, but I've still not actually gotten to where I want to be, and I don't know how to get to where I want to be. Therein lies that mental struggle, right? So, continuing on. All of us struggle with the mental side of being active. Whether we're neophytes looking to get in shape or seasoned trainers struggling with our latest challenge, it helps to remember that being fit isn't some magical permanent state of being. It's an act of constant becoming, and it requires a certain discipline to make it a habit. To better understand the mental side of getting and staying fit, the author here says we spoke with John Bartholomew, director of the Exercise and Sports Psychology Laboratory at the University of Texas. He mentioned his daughter, who plays club soccer, as an example. Quote, there's always this sense with adolescence that now I'm going to be done, that now I'm going to be good. He continues, one thing I talked to her about is that you're not going to be done getting better at soccer until you're done playing soccer. In other words, being active is about the journey, not the destination. It's about the journey, not the destination. And I'll say it again because I say it often, and sometimes people that are listening now might not have listened in the past. 99% of the time when I repeat something, it's because I'm telling myself as much, if not more, than I am telling you. Being active is about the journey, not the destination. And it's a journey that, when done right, never truly ends. Here's what else we learned and how it might serve you as you go about setting and keeping your fitness goals. Which reminds us, tip 1, don't actually set goals. I know that sounds completely strange, right? Don't set goals. They say goals are actually overrated. And this is something that seems absolutely contrary to everything I have ever heard. You need to go, well, I want to get in shape. Well, what does that mean? I want to run faster. Well, how much faster? Like, I know that I am never going to wind up running a 4-minute mile. I'm probably never going to run a 6-minute or a 7-minute mile. Now, downhill with a wind at my back, I might be able to hit 7 again, which is something that I've not done in 20 plus years. Although somehow on Thanksgiving Day, running uphill, I hit a 7:25 on mile 1 of a 4-mile race. Still don't know how the hell that happened, but it did. And that, by the way, was the fastest mile that I've run since I was in high school 20-some-odd years ago, the last time I actually ran under a 7-minute mile. But they say here that goals are overrated. 1 year ago, roughly, I had a goal of I want to be able to run a 5K without walking at all. And I wound up accomplishing that goal. And then I wound up, by the end of the year, running an entire half marathon without walking at all. So, yeah, goals overrated seems contrary, right? Let's talk about it. Stay tuned.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at weusecoins.com. That's weusecoins.com. Born into a devastating world and raised among the crowd, the Cloudwalker assumes a new identity and begins the unrelenting quest for truth. In this epic journey, he discovers dark secrets about aspects of his previous life that he once trusted. Through the Journal of the Cloudwalker, he shares both the traumatic hardships and the eternal beauties of his experiences. Fueled in the beginning by his unsettling thoughts and emotions, he learns how to find peace with everything he has woken up to. Dear Society by the Cloudwalker is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
Hey, welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. Let's jump back into, or actually jump into, the 7 tips here. We've just gone through the preface, and then a lot of me rambling, but, that happens. Right? So, continuing on. Goals are overrated. Sounds strange, but I don't remember if he's a doctor. Nope. Just a Mr. John Bartholomew, director of the Exercise and Sports Psychology Laboratory at University of Texas. He says one of the concerns with the goals that people set for themselves is that they don't have a history of being active. They don't set goals that are reasonable. And I will add, or realistic. One of the challenges that people have when they begin a fitness program is that most of the feedback they receive is negative. It hurts, they're sore, they're hungrier, so they eat more, and then they gain weight. There's expense, they're buying shoes, etc. More bad news, the rewards, the positive aspects, they're all delayed. Improved mood, weight loss, health benefits, those are all things you don't notice for a couple of months. Right? There's a large period of time when you need to be able to navigate these negative experiences. Bartholomew suggests focusing on the process and recognizing that everyone struggles to adapt to a new routine. He says you need to understand that the first 6 weeks are more uncomfortable than they are comfortable. the general response is to think that it's about us. It's helpful to know this is a common experience. This is normal. Remembering that won't make those 6 weeks easier, but it will help you stay focused on the good things on the other side of those painful days. So it sounds, even though he's saying that goals are overrated, he's not saying don't have a goal, just realize you're not necessarily going to reach that goal as quickly as you thought. Continuing on, tip number 2, don't exercise, train. And this is one of those things to where some people are, well, that's a distinction without a difference. They continue here in this article. What is the difference? Exercise is disparate, untethered from an overall project or way of life. Training, yes, a goal, but is also rewarding in and of itself. If you have a destination, running a 5K, a 10K, half marathon, etc., there's an innate challenge. Bartholomew says, therefore, you're going to train and naturally follow through. You can modify your training as you follow along. It's not typically a huge expense to sign up for such an event, but you've made a commitment that will help you find the drive to do those workouts. And, I think I mentioned this previously last year when I was, just getting into running. I looked at some training plans, but I never actually followed one. And this year, I'm actually going to follow a training plan for some of my races. I actually am holding in my hand right now, and if I shake it, you might be able to hear the piece of paper. Holding in my hand right now a training plan that I created for myself for the Maine Coast Half Marathon coming up in early May, actually mid-May, May 12th. Today, I'm supposed to run 3.375 miles. I will probably wind up running closer to 3.5, just because rounding is easier. Tomorrow, I run 2. Wednesday, I run 3. Thursday, I go to the gym. Friday, I run 2 3/4. Saturday, I run a 5K. I've actually got a plan that I'm going to wind up sticking to because it is training. And again, there's that mental distinction when you think of, I've got to go exercise versus I have to go train for this thing. Number 3, they suggest getting social. And, of course, they're going to mention their app, Map My Run, but also Strava. One thing that I really like about Strava is there is a sort of social network aspect built into it. And again, depending on what you're using to track your mileage and your exercise and whatnot, you can have it send the info to both Map My Run, Map My Fitness, which are, 2 versions of basically the same thing. You can send it to Strava, etc. Number 4, they say change your habit. The reality is, going from no workout routine to having one is a lifestyle change. So is going from your existing program to another. And that's potentially more challenging. To ease the transition, you'll want to remove as much friction as possible between you and your workouts. Bartholomew recommends working out in the morning rather than at night. And, quote, set out your workout clothes the night before. Setting aside time at the end of the day, that's the easiest thing to put off. Now, I generally will do my workout in the middle of the day, late afternoon, to where, again, for me, that's kind of the middle of the day, and it's easy for me to work it into my schedule, and then I'm not having to wake up at some ridiculously early hour. Number 5, he says, define yourself as an active person, even if it's miserable outside. That means if it's raining and it's a run day, you go for a run, especially if you're training for a race. Training for a race. Because if it's raining on race day, you're still going to run in the rain on race day. Number 6, recovery is a mental game as well. We'll talk about that. And the final tip for mastering the mental side of getting fit here in moments on Peace Love Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com.
In 1999, Darryl W. Perry began a search for traditional values, which led him down a path to the ideas of liberty. He tells the story in A Rebel's Journey, My Path to Liberty. Of the book, Dr. Brian Sovereign says, sometimes it's funny, and sometimes I think it's crazy, but it's always authentic. Find A Rebel's Journey, My Path to Liberty by Darryl W. Perry on Facebook, read reviews on Amazon, ask for A Rebel's Journey wherever books are sold, or visit arebelsjourney.com.
It is the year 91,001 BCE. Witness humanity's origins in Hyperchronius, a classic role-playing game for Windows PCs, with a story like no other game before. A liberty-oriented experience that is not to be missed. Go to ZOG.Ninja to get your copy of Hyperchronius today. Use the code FPP to get $1 off. Hyperchronius, ZOG.Ninja, code FPP.
Hey, this is Scott from the ANCAP Barbershop, and you're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. We'll jump back into this article here in just a second, but first I want to make sure that I tell you about Zencash. Zencash is an end-to-end encrypted system with zero-knowledge technology over which communications, data, or value can be securely transmitted and stored. With over 7,500 secure nodes, Zencash has one of the most distributed and secure node systems of any cryptocurrency. Zencash is a platform for cryptocurrency and communications built by voluntarists for voluntarists, with the ideas of voluntary interaction being written into the white paper no less than half a dozen times. And the Zencash wallet is available for Linux, Mac, Windows, and Android devices, and available in multiple languages. Learn more at zencash.com. That's zencash.com. Jumping back into the article from Map My Fitness, or actually MyFitnessPal, which is I think the website version of Map My Fitness, which is connected to Map My Run and a couple other things. I use the app. I get the emails from them, hence how I was able to find this I found another article, and then this was a suggested article from that other article. 7 tips for mastering the mental side of getting fit. Number 6, recovery is a mental game as well. While you might sometimes struggle with motivating yourself to get off the couch, you might also struggle with motivating yourself to stay out of the gym, or perhaps more precisely, with forgiving yourself for taking a rest day. And if you've listened to the podcast recently, you know that this is something that I have struggled with, especially because, I allowed myself to wind up taking it easy during January and February, not running as much, not running outside because of snow and ice, etc. And then I wound up with ankle problems where I was dealing with what I believe to be tendinitis, and that was very difficult for me. I wound up for a week and a half not doing anything at all related to exercise. No gym, no running, no yoga. That was incredibly difficult for me. And recovery is a mental game. Number 7 on the list here, change your routine as you change. This is something not a lot of people do. They wind up, this works, I'm going to keep doing it, and then they never modify the routine. Change your workout routine, but also send me questions, because I will answer them on Friday, ama.fppradio.com.
The podcasts of FPP Radio are licensed under Copy Heart. We believe that copying is a form of flattery and do not abide by the copyright laws. Those laws serve to restrict the flow of ideas which no one can really own. Copying is an act of love. love is not subject to law. If you enjoy the show, consider joining the Fans program and get perks like ad-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio and FPP Radio News, and also get a copy of the monthly newspaper FPP News. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.